On February 10th, 1943, Walter B. Jones Jr. was born to Doris Jones and Walter B. Jones Sr. in Farmville, North Carolina. Since his dad is not just a biography tidbit and plays a decent role in this video, for the sake of clarity, I will be using all of the variations of the name to describe the subject of this video and refer to his dad as Walter's dad. Walter's dad was able to do a good job providing for his family, as soon after Walter's birth, he would get elected as mayor of Farmville, which would kickstart a career in the North Carolina legislature. Walter would go to Hargrave Military Academy for his primary education, later graduating in 1966 with a Bachelor of Arts from Atlantic Christian College. Immediately afterwards, he enlisted in the North Carolina National Guard and served there until 1971. 3 years later, Jones would convert from Southern Baptism to Catholicism while working as an executive for his dad's business supply company, as Walter's dad had become a little bit preoccupied, now becoming a member of the United States Congress representing the 1st District of North Carolina as a Democrat. Even managed to become a top party member as the chairman of the Committee on Merchant Marine and Fisheries in 1981. Walter's dad's rise in politics also made Walter decide to run for office himself, becoming a state representative from Pitt County, also as a Democrat. His primary focus in the state legislature being campaign finance reform. While this stint of their careers was going on, Walter started to feel disillusioned with the Democratic Party, especially given the rise of the party's advocacy of social liberalism. Jones pointing out how after his dad became a top Democrat in the House, he had to vote a lot more in line with the mainstream Democratic Party position on issues against his own wishes, which would culminate in 1992, where Walter's dad announced that he would retire from Congress, leading Walter to announce that he would run to succeed him, making it to a runoff with Eva Clayton, who would ultimately beat him with the help of 3 of their opponents. This election serving as the final divide, as Jones would end up endorsing her Republican opponent in the special election that came after his dad would pass away. And 2 years later, he would announce that he would try to run for Congress again, not only in a different district, but also in a different party, officially joining the Republican Party. Due to redistricting, the race between him and the incumbent Democrat was pretty close, but ultimately Jones got the edge when he would circulate a picture of Lancaster and Bill Clinton jogging together, which radicalized the more conservative voters in this district to vote for Jones. Upon getting elected, Walter B. Jones was seemingly just another Republican in the House, backing the impeachment of Bill Clinton, support the troops, backing the Iraq War, just general generic conservative stuff. That last one being a little interesting due to a small little controversy that happened in the wake of the Iraq War. You see, when the United States declared war in Iraq, many people around the world were not necessarily in favor of it. One person who expressed criticism of it was the French Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dominique de Villepin, which led to a restaurant in Beaufort, North Carolina, to rebrand their food so that it would no longer have the term French in it, taking inspiration from the fact that during World War I, American restaurateurs did not want to sell sauerkraut out of fear that that would make people not want to buy it. So they rebranded it to Liberty Cabbage, which would in turn inspire Jones to ask for the congressional cafeteria to do the same thing, taking every instance of the word French on the menu and replacing it with the word freedom, freedom toast, freedom bread, and most famously, freedom fries. While Jones was focusing on this very important issue, he would receive a letter from a family of a constituent of his, Marine Sergeant Michael E. Blitz, which was simply asking him to attend Michael's funeral, as he had died serving in Iraq. And while attending the funeral, a lot of things happened that made Walter Jones start feeling a little uneasy. Seeing Michael's wife reading the last letter that he sent her, seeing Michael's toddler son walking around without his dad, and especially seeing twin newborns who would never meet their dad. And part of the blame for this was on Jones, which led to Jones to start to think, did I make the right choice? Which would coincide with more information revealing that the entire narrative that led to the US to invade Iraq was completely based on a lie, which made Jones feel even worse as he kept receiving letters of constituents of his who had lost family members in Iraq, to which Jones kept every single letter.
All these are letters I have gotten back from families who received condolence letters. I've signed over 11,000 letters. I don't even read them. I can't read them because emotionally it bothers me that I sent their kids to die for an unnecessary war.
This would lead to Jones becoming a massive critic of the Iraq War, joining up with efforts to withdraw troops from Iraq by the end of 2006, which seemed to inspire Jones to shift his ideological thinking, which would lead to a little bit of an issue when it actually came to giving him an ideology. While he still generally called himself a conservative, clearly he was not exactly the same type of conservative as a lot of other politicians in Washington. Some would refer to him as a libertarian due to his opposition to foreign wars and later advocacy in favor of marijuana rights. However, Jones was also a very noted critic of free trade and was one of Congress's loudest opponents of online gambling. So maybe Walter Jones is a paleo-conservative or a paleo-libertarian? Again, it's a little bit difficult to put Walter B. Jones in any neat ideological label. But one thing that he was definitely labeled a lot on the House floor was nice, with congressional aides calling him the second nicest member of Congress in 2010. Regardless of what you wanted to call him, it was very common to see Walter Jones standing in opposition of his own party on a wide variety of issues. He co-sponsored a bill that would challenge Tom DeLay's change of the House ethics rules that were made specifically to protect DeLay from having any investigation on him, being one of 3 Republicans to vote to hold Bush administration members in contempt of Congress, and was one of 7 Republicans to vote to disapprove of Joe Wilson's outburst during Obama's joint session of Congress. And unsurprisingly, his many maverick stances would sometimes lead to the party to push back against him. First came in 2011 when he was one of 4 Republicans to vote against the Path to Prosperity, the Republicans' budget proposed to counteract the Obama agenda. And while at the time it seemed like this was merely nothing, by the end of 2012, when the GOP was slated to maintain their majority, it was announced that they would remove Walter Jones from his position on the Financial Services Committee, despite him being very popular within the caucus. However, it seems that a lot of people argued that his removal was actually more of a cover for the removal of newcomers like Justin Amash from their committees due to similarly hardline political positions not in line with the GOP. But the issue that really got people's attention was Walter Jones's stance on Israel. Some of it was kind of expected given Jones's ideology, voting against the funding of the Iron Dome due to both humanitarian and financial reasons. But in 2014, things got worse for Jones because at the time, Israel was announcing an expansion of settlements within the West Bank, and Jones was one of the few members of Congress who were criticizing them for this, being quoted as saying, "How many times can you keep sticking your finger in the eyes of the people of Palestine?" And was very open about the obvious reason why many of his other colleagues were not speaking out of the issue. This place operates on fundraising. Some of the major players in fundraising are with AIPAC, leading to Walter Jones to get his first somewhat serious primary bid, who would receive the backing of folks like Sarah Palin and Bill Kristol. The race even getting to the point where even J Street announced that they were going to be backing Jones in order to give him a slight edge, despite them criticizing him for voting against the Iron Dome. And a slight edge he did get, beating his opponent by 5 points, but barely getting 50%. The attention on Jones would return in the lead up of the next presidential election. Jones backed Rand, very similar to how he backed his dad's 2 prior runs, but after Rand lost, the question became, what now? A question that became so prevalent that the people in this camp all went in vastly different directions. Let's compare him to two of his major contemporaries, Justin Amash and Thomas Massie. Massie went on the route of vocally supporting Trump. You could argue, given events afterwards, that it was reluctantly, but he did make the choice to support Donald Trump. Whereas someone like Amash was very vocal in opposing Trump even during the general election. Jones seemed to remain quiet about his personal endorsement, but did express hope that things would work out. But much like before, Jones went right back to work being the thorn in his party's side, especially being critical of the man who was the leader of the party. The first came from Jones simply asking for Trump's tax returns, even going so far as to state that Congress review the documents privately first, just to determine if they should be released to the public as a compromise from the guy who did not want to release them. I wonder if this experience led to one of Jones's allies to take a different approach when it came to releasing documents that Trump wants to hide. But back to Jones, he would also start looking at the concerns regarding Russian interference in the 2016 election somewhat seriously, going so far as to say that the House Intelligence Committee chair Devin Nunes needed to recuse himself from the Trump-Russia investigation due to his role in it, saying of Nunes, "How can you be chairman of a major committee and do all of these things behind the scenes and keep your credibility? You can't keep your credibility." Jones continuing his criticism of Trump in April of 2017 by calling out his policies regarding Yemen, being quoted as saying, "Al-Qaeda has emerged as a de facto ally to the Saudi-led militaries with whom Trump administration aims to partner more closely." But it seems the final nail in the coffin for a possible Jones-Trump friendship ended when Walter Jones would vote against the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, due to the fact that it would add $2 trillion to the debt. Walter's opposition to Trump was not lost on anybody, as 538's Trump tracker that was going on at the time stated that Jones had only voted with Trump 49.3% of the time. Not only the lowest of the Republican Party, but also lower than
11
Democrats, which in turn obviously put Jones on the radar for more primary bids, getting two challengers opposing him from the right in 2018. And while he did manage to pull through the race, as you could see, he got less than 50%, and his opponents combined got 56%, meaning that it was basically luck that won him the race. And had they just coalesced around one guy, he probably would have lost. But after the primary, things started feeling odd. Jones got sick, and due to that fact, he started missing a lot of votes, having to be granted a leave of absence for the remainder of the 2018 term, to the point where Walter B. Jones had to be sworn in his home because he just couldn't go to DC to do it properly. But when things started looking up for Jones and he was actually seemingly healthy enough to start going back to Washington, he would sustain a hip injury, injuries that he would unfortunately not be able to recover from, as he would end up passing away on February 10th of 2019. After his funeral, it would be revealed that the disease that ailed him in the first place was amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which was diagnosed 2 months prior to his death. Jones is a very fascinating figure to me. If you don't know, me and him obviously do not see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and yet I have a large amount of respect to him that I wouldn't really afford a lot of other people. And hopefully this video did him enough justice to show you why. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell to notify a future video when it comes out. And if you want more content from me, consider supporting me on Patreon.